Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard video, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive on the new Cadian heavy weapon teams that GW is going to be releasing as part of the Imperial Guard new model line. So in case you missed it, Games Workshop did loads of Imperial Guard reveals last week, and I'm going to have a link down in the description to the Warhammer community article where you can see all of the reveals in one place and you can view them at your leisure. But today what we're going to be doing is doing a deep dive on these new kits, taking a look at how they differ from the old kits and any other little details that we can find. But without further ado, let's take a look at these new models. Now, the first thing to mention is that they are wearing these similar style uniforms to those that you'll find in the new Cadian shock troops. If you haven't seen my deep dive on that, I'll link it at the end of this video. But to give you a quick summary, we've now got some smoother, less blocky tri-dome helmets. The armor plates on the shoulders are less blocky and come in two segments now. And we've also got these new nifty knee pads. These knee pads are a bit of a love it or hate it vibe from the community. I personally really like them, and I don't think it's too difficult to model around them or paint around them if you don't like them. So overall, I really like the new Cadian models. I think it does a really good job of keeping them in line with the current kit, but also harkens back to the old metal models. And I have to say, I love those old metal models. They are my favorite Cadian models of all time. If you haven't seen my Infantry Squad deep dive video where I go into minute detail on the uniforms of the new Cadians, then I'll link it at the end of this one. But to give you a quick summary, we've got a slimmer tri-dome helmet. We've got armor plates that now come in two segments on the shoulders rather than just one big blocky one. We've got the knee pads. We've got the gaiters down here. We've also got longer coats as well. They also come with lots of backpacks and other extra gear as well. And it looks like the pouches and grenades are mostly modeled on, but there are some options for you to add extra bits as well. And of course, we've got the webbing straps as well. So that is the overall changes. What we're going to be focusing on today is looking at the specific heavy weapon bits, such as the missile launchers and other heavy weapons, and also some of the extra gear that we can see these guys rocking. So let's take a look at that stuff now. So the first thing to mention, I think it's a pretty big one, is we've got a Vox caster attached to this guy's back. That's really, really big. In fact, I have it on good authority that all guardsman squads in the whole of the new codex will have access to a Vox caster. That's really big. In the current rules, you can't give Vox casters things like heavy weapon teams or special weapon teams or anything like that. Now that you can give them to the heavy weapon teams, that's really, really good. It's going to make doing orders better. It's going to make being able to do other buffs that you can do in the codex much easier. So overall, big pluses for finally being able to put Vox casters on your heavy weapons. Now, speaking of backpacks, if you take a look at the other trooper, he is wearing a very bulky, chunky backpack. This looks easily to be 50% or even double the size of the new Cadian backpacks we've seen on the shock troops. So I imagine this is going to be unique to the heavy weapon teams, and it's probably meant to represent they've got loads of extra ammo chilling out inside this big backpack. Another detail to note about the overall model is that you can see we've got two new kneeling poses. With this one is very similar to the current kit, but is a little bit different because there's a gap between the legs. And then you've also got this guy who's kneeling down on the tips of his feet. This is two new poses unique to the heavy weapon team kit. You do not find this in the Cadian shock troop one. Cadian shock troops in the new box all are either standing up or power posing or running. None of them are crouched down. So that's kind of interesting to note, because it just means that if you want to be able to have all sorts of poses on your regular infantry, you might want to pick up some of these heavy weapon team boxes. So you can have some guys kneeling down firing las rifles and some guys standing up shoulder mounting the rocket launchers. Now, speaking of the rocket launcher, this is a very similar design to what we have in the current Guard heavy weapon team kit. I am personally not a fan of the bipod rocket launcher. I know it's probably quite realistic for big anti-tank missiles, stuff like that, but I just really like the idea of having it as a proper shoulder mounted weapon. It is essentially a big Panzerschreck in space, and I would really like to see that properly represented. I don't know about you, let me know what you think down in the comment section, but personally I've never been a fan of seeing the rocket launcher with the bipod, and I've never seen anyone build the rocket launcher with the bipod either. But on a positive note, you can see that we now get a pre-drilled barrel, which is absolutely fantastic. That's going to make it look a lot better when putting it together. So overall, I'm okay with the rocket launcher design. Me personally, I'm probably never going to use this bipod, and instead I'm going to have kneeling down anti-tank hunter killer teams. Now, I know some of you will have spotted this detail already. This guy's got a very unique and cool looking pistol, and we're going to get a closer look at it in the next picture as well. And he's also got his hands on some sort of radio. I imagine that is for his Voxcaster. We've also got some unique head designs here as well, goggles and all that. Always good to see the heavy weapon teams having goggles. It's a nice throwback to the current, or should I say soon to be old, heavy weapon team box. But let's come back down to this pistol. In fact, this covers pretty much everything I want to talk about with this model. So let's move on to this one where we can have a better look at that pistol. Now, my first instinct is to say that this is a flare pistol. That's kind of cool, but I tell you what it might be, and it'd be absolutely mad if GW had done this. There was in World War II a pistol-sized anti-tank weapon that the Germans developed that in bolt action, a lot of your Pioneer units could run around doing it. And it's actually a really powerful weapon. It's incredibly short range, so most people don't bother taking it. If GW have given heavy weapon teams some sort of really short range anti-tank, anti-panzer pistol, I'd be incredibly surprised. I think more than likely this is meant to be a flare pistol, and I'm totally up for that. I actually really like the idea of flare pistols. They are mentioned quite a lot throughout the Gaunt's Ghost books about people using flare pistols and everything, so it's really cool, and it's just a nice extra little detail. But I'll tell you what, if this thing has stats, I'm going to be using it, even if it's terrible. Now, speaking of weapons, we've got a new heavy bolter style here. So this is great that we can finally get an up close and personal look at the new heavy bolter. And when we had a look at the previous leaked picture of this thing, it looked like the ammo looped up like that. But no, it doesn't. It actually just sort of slots in the side. Personally, I am a big fan of this new heavy bolter design. It looks very similar to the old one. We've got the tripod facing the right way. New tripod design, guys. If you look, we've got the legs down there. We've also got a stabilizing bar across there and across the back as well. So that's great. It looks like a heavy bolter, which is fantastic. We've got a big eagle on the side, which is good. Overall, it looks like a heavy bolter with some improvements. But this ammo feeding system is just mwah, chef's kiss. It just looks so much better than the current ammo feeding system. One of the big gripes I've always had with the current heavy weapon team box set, especially with the heavy bolter, has been like the size of the heavy bolter ammo. If you look at the heavy bolter rounds that are coming out of the old kit, they just look like stubber rounds. They just look like normal machine gun rounds. Whereas you can see here, and they're also like, lying down on the ground and sort of being fed. It just doesn't look right. Do you know what I mean? So it's just great to see that we've got a proper ammo box here feeding directly into heavy bolter, and the rounds look big and chunky and not silly. So overall, I would say out of all the new heavy weapons, the heavy bolter is one of my favorites. Moving on to the next heavy weapon, we've got the lascan, and this is an incredible looking lascan, just so improved. Again, it looks similar to the old one that we've got at the moment, but it actually, to me, the reason I love this lascannon is not necessarily because it's got the power pack on the side or anything like that. This lascannon looks just like the old school metal steel Legion ones. Those things are so rare and so difficult to get your hands on. I actually don't own any, and that's a real sort of disappointment for me personally in my Steel Legion collection. I've got loads of missile launchers. I've even got plasma guns, which are rare. I've even got heavy bolters, which are pretty rare, but I don't have any Steel Legion lascars. And I had an opportunity to pick some up many years ago, and I didn't go for it, and I've always regretted it. So it's great that I can now basically use these plastic lascannons to kit bash myself some proper Steel Legion heavy weapon teams. It's just fine. It's just so good. I love the design overall. Now, interestingly, we've noticed with this weapon and with heavy bolter, no gun shield. So there's a gun shield on the missile launcher, like a blast shield, but there's no gun shield on the new heavy weapons. Not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I have built many of my own weapons without the gun shields, but when you look at the old school metal heavy weapon teams, they always had gun shields, or nearly always had gun shields. So it's a little bit of a shame to see them go, but I think the reason GW's done it is to really accentuate the differences between the heavy weapon teams and the field ordnance batteries. All the field ordnance batteries have got proper big gun shields, but the heavy weapon teams don't. I mean, they're already obviously very different, but I think that really just hammers home the point that heavy weapon teams are now no longer like the heaviest weapons you can get for your guard infantry armies. You can get big field ordnance batteries, and they look big because they've got gun shields. So overall, I think these models are looking a lot more streamlined, and I think the reason for that as well is to make them look a bit more maneuverable. You see, the current heavy weapon team kits, they're on those big bases. We're going to get to base size in a moment, guys, so I know it's a question a lot of you are going to be asking. But they're on big bases with big gun shields, and they look more dug in because they've got sandbags that come with the models, and also the ammo is on the ground. They just look more dug in, don't they? Whereas these ones, they look heavy, don't get me wrong, but they do look like they could actually be broken down and moved around by a two-man team. So I think the point with these is to make them look a bit more maneuverable and make it look like your guardsmen could actually move around the battlefield with them relatively easily. Couple of details to note here. We've got an interesting shoulder pad for this sergeant, which is cool. It might actually mean we do get sergeants in heavy weapon teams, which would be a big plus because at the moment they don't have them, which means they can suffer from leadership problems. We've got the sergeant's field cap as well. Got a cool knife hand, very nice. And another thing to note is we've got this helmet over here with the goggles on top. I have to say, little gripe here, but I think the face painting on the heavy weapon teams is some of the worst that I've seen in new GW mods. This one looks like Gollum or like a goblin or Smeagol. This one doesn't look that great either. You know, I think maybe the posing's a bit off because she's looking down sort of this way, but the hand is sort of pointing off this way. So that's a little bit off. If we go back one, I mean, I don't know what that guy said. He's either having a big shit or he's just smelt someone else's big shit. But it's just not a great look on that guy's face. So all the faces here, they're just not looking good. I think that one really is probably the worst one, though. Another cool little detail is we can see a little bayonet or knife down here. That's great. The other Cajun shock troop kit didn't seem to have any knives or bayonets in it, which is a bit of a shame. So it's great to see that we can actually still get access to them. And also, this little ammo pouch here looks a little bit different to what we've seen before. Moving on to the mortar. I really like the look of this mortar. It definitely looks a bit chunkier. It looks to me like it's halfway between the current plastic one and the old metal ones that were absolutely beefy. So I do think that this mortar looks a bit bigger, looks a bit better. I don't think its stats are going to change, but you can definitely see it's got a bigger foot plate down here. Bipod's been reworked slightly, and we've got a new rangefinder style thing up here. Another thing to notice is we've got a different kind of ammo pouch over here, and we do appear to have a pistol pouch here. Now, one thing that we've not seen on any of these heavy weapon teams is a rifle, which means I would suspect that the glory days of being able to fire a lasgun and a heavy weapon from a heavy weapon team is going to have gone. That's a big shame, but you know, it's just a big shame really. But hopefully if we get lasguns on sergeants, it'll make up for it. Now, moving on to the last heavy weapon team, we've got the autocannon. Great to see we've got some binoculars here, which is good. That pistol pouch in clear view. Extra ammo, which is just looking good. And overall, the autocannon itself looks very similar to the current one. Interestingly, I feel like the autocannon itself is actually a little shorter, a little stubbier, a little bit more chody. The barrel certainly looks a bit chunkier though, and the ammo looks absolutely massive on the side of it. I think the autocannon here, the proportions are slightly off. Okay, that looks a little big, that looks a little short. I don't know. I mean, I always like the fact that the autocannon looked a little longer than the heavy bolter. This one doesn't seem like it's going to have that much difference. So, I don't know. I'm not a big... I think it looks okay. But out of all the new heavy weapons, I would say the lascannon and the heavy bolter are far and away the best looking ones, with the missile launcher just being disappointing because it just looks the same, and the autocannon looking probably the worst, with the mortar looking, you know, again, like the missile launcher, basically the same. But yeah, I don't know, the proportions just seem a little bit off to me. Maybe it's the photography. Maybe when we get our hands on the physical models, they're going to look absolutely fine. Big plus on all of these models, though, is we have got the drilled out barrels, which is fantastic. Now, I know something that you're all going to be asking, which is what is the base size of the new models? They look like they're on smaller bases, and Warhammer community has confirmed that the new heavy weapon teams are going to be on 50mm bases, which means there is a risk, depends on how strict your tournament organizers are, that you're going to have to rebase a hell of a lot of heavy weapon teams. But overall, I really like the new heavy weapon teams, and I'm definitely going to be picking up several of the new heavy bolters. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What's your favorite looking heavy weapon out of all of the new ones that GW's shown off? And what is your favorite one traditionally? Be interested to see if those two are different. So let me know what you think down in that comment section below. If you've enjoyed today's video, then please consider giving it a like, and also consider subscribing to make sure you never miss an episode. If you've really enjoyed today's video and you want to go the extra mile when it comes to supporting the channel, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. If you become a channel member or Patreon, you will gain access to the Mordian Glory Discord, where we have over 400 active members. It's a really busy community, and in the Discord, we're always talking about tactics, we're talking about new units, rumors, leaks, memes, lore, everything. We've even got painting competitions going on to help you try and slay the grey, and where you can compete against other regiments. In fact, when the new guard models drop, we're going to be doing another painter competition to help you not only get your models, but motivate you to help build them, paint them, and get them on the battlefield as quickly as possible. If that sounds like something you'd want to be involved in, it sounds like a lot of fun, then seriously consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. And I just want to take a moment now to say a big thank you to our latest channel members and Patreons. So a huge thank you to Soul Hall, Nerdly Delicious, Daniel M, Johan C, Mark S, Master Sergeant Jackom, Santo Prime, Jake Hughes, Dumfries Gamers, Yeri, Joe Hills, Oliver Windle, The Red Scout, Thanum, Vincent Colson, James Stables, James Harden, Jason Dossett, Phantom's Hobby, Michael Enright, S73WY, The Soundman, Nino P, Andrew Layson, Felix Macbeth, Jason May, Herbert Hoover, and Big Man 3733. I also want to say a big thank you to our latest Patreon supporters as well. So huge thank you to Thomas, Texas Red, The Soundman, LARP Analysis, Madcap Miguel, Fox T, Josh, Glenn Thorpe, Isaac H. Chapman, Christian Chadwell, Evie Wilkinson, and Tech Guy 122. Thank you guys for your ongoing Patreon support. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a huge personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These guys are the war masters, the people that have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty when it comes to supporting the channel. So a massive thank you to Navy Veteran, Phil French, Ross Miller, Tekwal, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton, and of course, Sly Varney, the one-man super chatting army. Massive thank you, guys. Your ongoing support makes a huge difference. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.